Home and away spoilers. Will Levi report Abigail to the police? Next week on Home and Away in the UK, Levi faces reporting his own sister to the police, while Kirby pushes Marley to capitalise on his artistic talent. The sudden departure of Abigail puts Levi in a quandary next week, as he discovers that his little sis has pilfered more than just his wallet. The youngest of the three Fowler siblings, Abby had paid a flying visit to Summer Bay last week after learning of Eden's engagement to Cash. Arriving at the farmhouse unannounced, Abby convinced Levi to take her to the engagement party, where Eden surprised everyone by inviting Levi and Mackenzie to stay and have a drink. Abby was seen to be on edge when she received a text message from an unknown person asking where she was. And as she and Levi returned to the farmhouse, she took offense when Levi told her they didn't have a spare room that she could stay in. Abby asked Levi to take her to the bus stop, but when he went outside he found she had already disappeared, as had his wallet from the coffee table. Next week, Levi desperately tries to get hold of Abby, wanting to know what is going on with her. He admits to Mac that he hasn't really had much to do with Abby since moving out of the family home 10 years ago, and hadn't actually seen her in 2 years, so isn't sure what to make of the situation. Levi rings his mum, who gives him the number of the share house that Abby has been living in, only to learn that she moved out a few weeks ago. The next day, Levi overhears John giving a statement to Rose outside the surf club. Someone had been into John's office at some point during the engagement party and stolen $480 from the petty cash tin. John is kicking himself for leaving it unlocked, but Justin points out that John had other things on his mind, having dropped off Irene at her rehab clinic earlier that day. Levi leaves another message for Abby, asking her outright whether she stole the cash from the surf club, and if so, to bring it back immediately. Unfortunately, Rose overhears, and as she asks Levi whether everything is okay, he makes a hasty exit. Rose follows him outside as he explains that his little sister is just causing their mum some issues. Rose reminds Levi that if he knows anything about the theft, he has an obligation to tell her, but will he dob on his own sister? Meanwhile, at the board shop, Kirby sees another side to Marley's art skills when a ripped-out page falls out of his sketchpad. Whilst Marley's surfboard artwork is on display for all to see, this piece is a significant departure from his usual style, and it's one that intrigues Kirby. Marley is quick to dismiss the drawing, saying he was just mucking around and is going to chuck it out. But Kirby won't let it go as she quizzes him on it. Marley isn't appreciative of Kirby sticking her nose in, however, and she can see that she's annoyed him as he takes back the drawing and heads outside. Marley later explains that it was a particularly personal bit of art that he had drawn following a few difficult months. Kirby understands, explaining that it can be the same when she's writing lyrics, but still claims that it's too good for him not to share with the world. Kirby's continued pushing causes a frustrated Marley to ask why it's so important to her when there's so much else going on at the moment. Realizing she's overstepped, Kirby later calls by the farmhouse to apologize, but brings with her a blank canvas and a set of paints. "I'm not gonna say anything," Kirby states as she places them down. "Do with that what you will." Kirby leaves and Marley is left with food for thought, and it doesn't take long before he has set up an easel and gets to work. That evening, Kirby decides to play her piano in an attempt to channel her grief over Felicity, but ends up breaking down in tears. The next day, Marley comes into the shop with his newly completely painting and admits that Kirby was right. Showing the piece to Kirby, she tells him that he nailed it, and even Alf is impressed. Whilst Marley is pleased with the outcome, Kirby later decides that Marley should take it to the next level, informing him that there's a local art competition with a top prize of $15. She's even taking it upon herself to start filling out the entry form on his behalf. It's back to square one, as an exasperated Marley tells Kirby that he's not in it for the money, and that casually entering an art competition is the last thing on his mind given that they've just lost a friend. Will Kirby convince Marley to reconsider, or is this one step too far?
Các bạn vừa theo dõi một sản phẩm của Home and Away Spoiler Today. Xin chào.